Hey everyone, it is day 2 of the Learn to Read Tarot in 5 Days course, and I'm super excited because I think this is my favorite day. And today we're talking about the Major Arcana and the Hero's Journey. So, like I said in yesterday's video, the Major Arcana is the trump cards. These are the cards that sort of used to, at least, mean more than the Minor Arcana cards, especially when it was a playing card game. They would be used to help make the player win because they would trump or defeat any lesser cards or the Minor Arcana cards. So there are 22 Major Arcana cards, but they're numbered 0 to 21. So you might get confused when going through your deck and seeing that the number stops at 21, but that's because you add a 0 to the end. When interpreting the Major Arcana cards in a reading, you want to think about the big idea. So these cards aren't going to talk to you about your current relationship, they're going to talk to you about your entire love life, if that makes sense. Or they're not going to talk to you about this one specific job, they're going to talk to you about your entire career or life purpose. They're big picture ideas, they're major influences, if that helps you remember. And the coolest part about the Major Arcana are the archetypes of each card are seen throughout different cultures, history, references. You'll find that when I explain the hero's journey to you, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's literally every novel, every movie, everything I've ever seen or read or listened to ever. And it's laid out for you right here. So now let's dive into the hero's journey because this is going to take the majority of this video. And the reason why I'm telling you about this, because if you know anything about the hero's journey, it's typically taught in like writing courses or literature courses. Not really in accordance with the occult or divination. But I find it's very important because it will help you understand how to read the Major Arcana cards specifically if you can tie in the hero's journey into the reading. So if you pull certain Major Arcana cards, you will be able to understand, okay, this is where this portion of my life is in the hero's journey. This is sort of what I'm going to be experiencing, or this is what I have experienced and I'm ready to move on to the next part. Also, one thing I'm not going to do in this video is I'm not going to go through and teach you guys the meanings of all of the Major Arcana cards. You will actually be getting a tarot cheat sheet which shows you all the meanings of every single card in the entire deck, and I want you to use that to help you interpret and learn the cards. Hopefully you also got a guidebook or a little pamphlet with your deck when you purchased it that also has all of the meanings. That is not what I'm teaching in this course because you already have resources like that available to you. I'm going to be teaching how to interpret those cards, how to build a reading, etc. Alright, so let's start with the hero's journey. The hero's journey is sort of the universal journey that everyone goes on in their life. And you can go through this journey multiple times, cycling, never end. You can be going on a long stretch of this journey and never reach the ending. You can start the journey and then halfway through you have to restart it. You can do journeys within a larger journey. Like this journey, the hero's journey, encompasses so much of how we grow and how we transcend, and in like a spiritual way, it sort of starts you as like a child and then you go into being completely enlightened. But we're going to talk about it a little bit more literally, because I'm going to be using Harry Potter as the metaphor while I describe it. Okay, so first of all, this is 100 spoiler alerts for Harry Potter. If you have not seen it or read it, what are you doing? First of all. And secondly, I'm sorry, I feel like at this point you should kind of already know the gist of Harry Potter. But I'm going to use it anyway because Harry Potter is the perfect example of a hero's journey within a larger hero's journey. Because Harry goes through the hero's journey in every single book, which there's only 7. I can't do finger numbers for some reason. But there's only 7 books, there's not 8, like there are 8 movies. But he goes through it in every single book individually, and the whole series is one giant arc. So there are 3 sections of the hero's journey. There is the departure section, the initiation section, and the return section. So the departure section is like, if we're going to think about Harry Potter, the series as a whole, is around the first 2 books. So this is where Harry learns he's a wizard. You're a wizard, Harry. This is where he understands how to use magic. He understands the limitations of the magical world, the government of the magical world. This is him getting introduced to the world and sort of feeling out where he belongs in comparison to where he has been. This section of the hero's journey, the departure section, encompasses the Fool to the Chariot. So the Fool card, as you can see, means like a new hope, new beginnings, etc. This is you're sort of coming into the journey and you're very naive. You've suddenly, in the hero's journey, this represents being aware of what you consider normal and understanding that it's going to change. And as you go through this initial stage of the hero's journey, you go through a few other sections which are represented by the cards. So the Magician and the High Priestess, which are the next 2 cards in the major arcana, sort of understand, sort of explain again, like, oh my gosh, there's like magic happening, oh my gosh, there's a magical world, I'm in Diagon Alley, what is happening? And then you go into sort of denial, like at the Sorting Hat stage, Harry can't believe he's going to be a wizard. He can't comprehend that he could possibly be in Gryffindor. He's sort of in denial, like, I'm not good enough, but I don't want to be in Slytherin. What is happening? He also gets this very often throughout the entire series. This happens again in Chamber of Secrets when he is in denial about himself being a good wizard, because he can speak parcel tongue. But anyway, he's in denial. Is this real? I don't know. So in the hero's journey, you start with the Fool, which is being blissfully unaware that your normal is going to change. And then you go to the Magician and the High Priestess, which is understanding that there is magic afoot. This is before you get to the Harry, you're a wizard part, though. This is where like the glass between you and the snake vanishes. This is like, what is happening? Like, weird stuff happens around you. You're starting to understand that your normal is not so normal. And then you get to the Emperor and Empress stage. Those are the next 2 cards in the major arcana. And here is the You're a Wizard, Harry section, because you're like, my life is changing? No, that's a dream. It was a dream. That's the denial section. So now we're at the Hierophant and the Lovers, and you have to choose between staying in what you consider to be your normal or moving on to what this new magical realm is. And then finally you get to the Chariot, which is you officially moving forward. So if you would have picked the Hierophant and stayed in your normal, your hero's journey could have paused and then recycled. You wouldn't have completed that specific hero's journey. So that is the departure phase, where you go from, okay, living under the stairs is normal, to I can make weird stuff happen, to you're a wizard, Harry, that's a dream, to I am a wizard, to I'm going to Diagon Alley in Hogwarts. Like, there's that phase. This sort of whole phase encompasses Harry's whole 2 first years at Hogwarts, and he cycles through the hero's journey again and again, but that huge phase is the beginning of that series. And then you get the initiation phase, and that is where the hero is really thrown into this new world, and they have to build a name for themselves, basically. So this is where we come into the cards Strength, the Hermit, and the Wheel of Fortune. And this section describes building your group of friends, understanding who your enemies are, building your own strength, your own skill, and building yourself up. Any movie you've seen that follows this arc, this is the montage of I'm working out, or we have to get all our buddies together, or I'm getting a makeover so I can be considered a part of the gang. Like, that is this section, and those 3 cards each represent a piece of that section. So the Strength is literally creating your physical strength and your physical surroundings to embrace this journey. The Hermit is your mental space, and the Wheel of Fortune is everybody around you. But then, as you're building your strength, you're building your friends, all of a sudden things start to seem a little too good to be true, and you get really bad imposter syndrome. All of a sudden you're like, wait, what am I doing here? And a lot of self-doubt trickles in. And this comes in the form of the cards Justice and the Hanged Man. And Justice sort of symbolizes obtaining balance, and the Hanged Man symbolizes letting go. So you have to understand sacrifice and let go of things in your life. And a transformation happens here. And it can be a good transformation or a bad one. Something typically small happens with the Death card. And although death sounds scary, the Death card is like the least scariest card in the whole deck, because the scary part is just about to be here. I would say that this is probably around the time of Cedric's death in Harry Potter. There's a transformation in the entire wizarding community and in Harry's life. A lot of self-doubt, like he just watched Cedric die. Nobody believes him. Like, it's a low point, but it's not the low of the low yet. And he's sort of tempted to give up. So this is sort of your give up stage. But it gets worse, because all of a sudden something you loved dies. Not to be blunt, because next you have the Devil and the Tower card. And these two cards back to back are not good, because essentially what this means is ultimate destruction. You have been bound and gagged, and something you loved has been torn down. But the whole point of this part is so you can become stronger in the end. That's the beauty of the Tower card. The Tower card is probably one of the scariest cards to pull from the major arcana, because it symbolizes complete reconstruction and rebuilding of what used to be there, because it's the image of a tower being burnt to the ground. And so this is where the initiation phase stops and the return phase begins. So now we're getting to the climax of the journey and the conclusion. And this, I would say, represents the sixth to seventh book in the Harry Potter series. So the hero is riddled with self-doubt, and this part of the hero's journey is kind of confusing within the tarot deck, because you have the star and then the moon. And so the star is a shining light of hope, and it's usually external from the hero. But the moon symbolizes like the shadow side and diving deep into yourself and uncovering things that you don't like about yourself or that you want to change, or bad experiences and memories. So you're riddled with self-doubt, but you do have this star in the sky, this shining light of hope shining down on you and continuing you forward. And luckily, what comes after the moon is the sun. And the sun is the beacon of light at the end. It's the heroic part of the journey. This is the Battle of Hogwarts. They're winning. This is sort of the main conclusion. After that comes Judgment. And this reminds me a lot of Justice for some reason. I think it's because both words start with a J. But this is when Harry dies in the 7th book, because he's a Horcrux. This is reflection, understanding where you went on your hero's journey, understanding what you changed, what you didn't change, and how you can go forward. And then it ends in the world. And so this is like the literal last chapter of Harry Potter and what you brought to the universe. So this is your contribution. So for Harry, it was having the wizarding world be free of Voldemort's like devastation. That's what he brought to the world. This is often called the elixir. What elixir did you find? Because sometimes the hero's journey is considered like finding the elixir of life. But like I said, for Harry, it's giving the wizarding world calm and peace. So that is the hero's journey. It's wonderful to know when reading tarot, because when a certain card comes up in a certain place, you can understand like, oh, okay, so that's where we are. This is what's happening next. Or you can even decide, I'm not ready for this. I'm going to start over. And we'll get to like free will and how tarot changes in the 4th day, which is all about tarot spreads, but you can sort of understand now how the major arcana affects the reading, because it's all about big picture ideas, major changes, major aspects of the universe and the hero's journey. Again, I have 3 links for you, all on the major arcana and the hero's journey. These are the links that I used to provide all the information I gave you today. So it's not everything that's out there, but it's what I used. Also, don't forget to do your homework and go to the Beauty Witch Coven and answer the daily prompt. If you have any questions, ask them in the Beauty Witch Coven, and don't forget about our live Q&A on Saturday. I'll see you guys tomorrow.